Why do we do the things that we do, dopey runners? What is the allure? I gotta stop asking myself that question. Otherwise, it's gonna turn out bad. Welcome to Always Running Forward. I'm your host, Justin Stone. That's right, it's been a whole year since I last made one of these videos. And those videos I made, not because I want to do some big YouTube personality. I really could care less about that stuff. But what I do care about is running at Disney. It's so much fun. I've been doing it for, 15 years now, and I've got lots of friends and lots of experiences about it. And I just continue to see on social and the internet about people asking all these questions about what do I pack, how do I prepare, how do you run a bunch of races in the middle of a weekend to Walt Disney World. And so I just created some tips and tricks for you to really take in however you wanted to see fit. And the response has been great. So thank you very much for those of you who tuned in, gave me great feedback on my content. And even some of you wildly stopped me during race weekend and said, hey, aren't you that guy on that thing? And I said, probably. And so I appreciate you coming up and giving your feedback. Why am I back this year? Look, things haven't changed that much with regards to packing. You still have to make sure that you're prepping and you're running right and you're thinking about nutrition and then you're packing accordingly. And if you have never run a runDisney race, I suggest you check out one of those videos that I did last year about how to pack or tips from a longtime runDisney runner. Those haven't changed that much. I'm not here to give you an update because really there's nothing new with regards to preparation. Why I am back this year is because I just would love to take some of you through the courses. This may be your first time running a runDisney race, and so what are the things you need to know about the actual courses themselves? Now, the 5K is such a popular race at Walt Disney World. 5Ks in themselves are a popular race distance. It's not too far, but you still feel accomplished when you've done it. I mean, 3.1 miles is still miles, right? It's still running, it's still getting out and having to train and having to focus and being prepared. So while many of us run all the races, you shouldn't scoff at the 5K. If you're getting out there and this is your first race, congratulations. Like, what a way to start your running career. I will say you're gonna have to temper this a little bit because your local 5Ks are not gonna be to the same caliber as runDisney races. So if this is your very first race and then you sign up for your local hometown 5K, things are going to feel markedly different. But you're here, it's Walt Disney World. You've laced up your shoes. You've got to the start line. What's this all about? Well, let's kind of go through it. Now, the thing about the 5K is it kind of changed in that it's always been at Epcot. Throughout the years, there's been differences in terms of where it enters the park, where it exits the park. Does it go through any other parts of property? But for the most part, the 5K continues to stay in Epcot. Now, you're gonna start in the Epcot parking lot and you're gonna make a big right all through the parking lot and you're gonna go past Walt Disney Imagineering. You'll also have a lot of DJs on this part of the course and lots of lights. So you wanna be careful because a lot of those lights are spinning and they're bright and you're going from a very, very dark area in the parking lot to a very bright area with the DJs. So just be very, very careful about how you're running and when those lights impact your eyes. There's also speed bumps. So just make sure that you're paying attention to your surroundings so that you don't trip. Now after you do that, you hit about mile 1, which is the security area. And that's where cast members, if they ever have to go inside the park with their automobiles, which is very infrequent, they would stop by the security gate. This is right by Test Track. And once you go in there, then things start to feel a little bit different, starts to feel a little bit more Disney and more magical. And you'll go straight in through Test Track space, and you've got whatever Wonders of Life is ultimately going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy. So you run through the breezeway, it used to be called Innoventions Breezeway, and then you're gonna make a left, and you're gonna go left into World Showcase Promenade. And World Showcase is the best. Like, I love World Showcase. First of all, it's a big open area, so you've got plenty of room to spread out, run your race. You don't really have to worry about stepping on anyone's toes or anyone running into you. And you're gonna swing around first into Mexico and work your way around that area. The thing about World Showcase too, and you're probably thinking, well, I walk World Showcase all the time. World Showcase Promenade is so long. We're talking about, almost a mile and a half, or maybe not, about a mile of that huge sweeping area around World Showcase Lagoon. So just remember, if this is your first 5K or your first runDisney race, it's really important not to get on it and just take off super fast, because you're gonna find yourself super gassed by the time you hit like France. And by the way, France to the UK pavilion has a lot of bridges that go up and down. So you wanna remember that you gotta save a little bit of energy to get up that incline, and then you're good. Then you just zip on down past the UK, past Canada. You're gonna go left up a walkway to by Journey to Imagination and the Imagination Institute. Might get a little bit tight there depending on which corral you start in. So just keep your wits about you again, and just making sure, like, as everybody's coming off a World Showcase into that one walkway, everybody's funneling appropriately and we're not cutting each other off or we're not running into each other. And then lastly, you go right around by the land, you go by the seas with Nemo, or the Living Seas if you're old school, up underneath Spaceship Earth, and then out security gate back to the parking lot. And the thing about Spaceship Earth, it's not a big deal, but you probably experienced it when you walked past Spaceship Earth on a windy day and all the wind collects into underneath Spaceship Earth and it creates these gigantic wind tunnels. I've run this race where it's raining and windy, and it's just like a monsoon of wind and rain just hitting you in the face, and it really slows you down. So just remember, if it's a kind of a windy day, you might experience a little bit of extra wind in that section. Then you're home, 3.1 miles, and you're done. Collect that medal, get a picture. There are lots of pictures in the runners area before and after the race, and hop on a bus and get back home. But now let's talk about the 10K. And I love the 10K distance. This is my distance. I run the Dopey every year, and what I always do is I set expectations before I leave for the race series, for the weekend, and I determine what race is going to be my A race. What race is the race that I'm really going to care about? Like, I'm going to train for, I'm going to give it my all, and I'm going to hustle. And then the rest of the races, I'm just trying to survive, right? So for me, it's the 10K. I love it because the 10Ks, you still have to run really, really fast. You still have to strategize. There's not a lot of time to slow down. And it's just the right distance for me and the way that I'm built, that I usually run my best race. Although lately, as I get older, none of the races have been my races. It's just all trying to survive, especially to get up so early every morning. But here's something about the 10K for 2026. It's backwards. It's different. So from what I'm hearing, this course is much like the 2025 Princess 10K and the 2025 Wine and Dine 10K, but not like the 2025 Marathon. So with this one, it's all a little bit different. It feels a little bit more like the 5K to me than historically what the 10K has been. However, this year, you're gonna start in the parking lot, you're gonna swing right instead of left, and you're gonna go in through security, just like you did the day before on the 5K. In fact, you're gonna do a lot of similar kind of running for the first couple of miles like you would for the 5K, and then it pivots out. So as you go into the security by test track, you go inside the park, but you run alongside Mission Space, and you run around Guardians of the Galaxy. Then you do this little like pirouette in the Interventions breezeway. It's like, I don't know what it is. Well, I'm looking at the map and it's like this, and then you're right around. So I'm not sure what's there. But then you're back into World Showcase Promenade, and you go around Canada, and you make that whole pass like you did before. Now, I do want to call out, because the 10K is the whole double the distance of the day before. When you do hit Paris and International Gateway, you make a left. And that left is going to take you out to the boardwalk. And you're going to go run around the boardwalk out through, up through past the Swan and Dolphin, or kind of in front of the Swan and Dolphin, and then to Yacht and Beach, and then back up to Epcot. And why it's important for me to call out what is around Paris and the International Gateway, or France and the International Gateway, is that there are a lot of inclines. So you're already putting in about 3 miles by the time you hit France, and then you're going to start hitting these inclines. There's one incline as you leave Epcot, you run all the way around the resorts, and you come right back up, there's another incline. But then luckily you get that little hill coming down, so you can get that going into the backstage near near Canada and the UK. And then you're back on to Promenade, to World Showcase Promenade. And then you go up back into Future World, but this time you're gonna go to the way left and go to Journey to Imagination, and you're gonna go behind Journey to Imagination onto what's called Avenue of the Stars. Avenue of the Stars is a perimeter road for cast members that encircles the entire park. And that's how vans get around, and that's how back of house transportation and traffic gets around. So you're gonna run on that. It's gonna be behind the land and behind Soarin'. And you're gonna come in back through the seas with Nemo into the park. So you're gonna go up and then down into the park. And then you're gonna cut to the middle of the park where all the new fancy stuff is, where there's like the plant, you know what I'm talking about, the planter. And you're gonna run around that, back through Spaceship Earth Breezeway, just like you did the day before, and then out to the finish line again. So this is totally different. This is, at least for historical marathon weekend runners. So it sounds like this has been a new course for Princess, it's been a new course for Wine and Dine, or this is what they've run. However, for this weekend, it's a new course. So essentially, it's backwards. I'm excited to do it. I run these races and it's like muscle memory. And so it's nice when I think I'm gonna turn left and I actually turn right. And then I'm like, oh, I gotta remember what I'm doing. I gotta stay fresh. I gotta pay attention to what I'm doing. Therefore, I gotta pay attention to my legs. I gotta pay attention to my lungs. I gotta pay attention to my race training, all of that stuff. So keep your wits about you with this one. If you're used to running a 10K at Walt Disney World in January, this is a little bit different, a little bit exciting, and I can't wait to see how it ends up. All right, we are done with the 10K. So that is what, 9-ish miles down the road? If you're running the Dopey, we're not even close to being halfway there. Why? Why do we do the things that we do, Dopey runners? What is the allure? I gotta stop asking myself that question. Otherwise, it's gonna turn out bad. But now we're here to Saturday. Saturday and half marathon. The half marathon is a curse. It's a cursed race. And any of you have run the Walt Disney World Half Marathon over the last couple of years know exactly what I'm talking about. For some reason, Saturdays in January in Florida, it just decides to rain crazy. It just decides to be absolutely wild, and nobody knows why. But I've woken up a couple of years ago, I woke up to the absolute monsoon where they canceled the race and everybody ran in their respective resorts to get their half marathon in. I actually didn't. I actually ran the marathon on Sunday and then just quickly got something to eat, and I just ran a half marathon right afterwards. It's not a humble brag. I just wanted to get it done, and I just didn't want to run it on Saturday. But then, was it last year, 2 years ago, that they cut it again because of weather? So who knows what's going to happen with the half marathon on Saturday? I will say it's one of the more popular races of the weekend. I think the half marathon is one of that like Everest type of runs where lots of new runners say, I'm really going to shoot for a half marathon. Half marathon is my high bar. That's what I really want to achieve. And it's a really, really popular race. And again, if you're new to runDisney and you're running multiple races, so maybe you've run the 5K or the 10K, you'll see that there's markedly more people for the half marathon showing up. So it's good to remember that, because it's good to get there early, be prepared. That way you may have to wait a little bit longer at security or gear check or the bathrooms or something like that. But let's talk about the race. This race has been fairly, I wouldn't say fairly consistent, because last year there were sweeping changes to the half marathon and the marathon course. Essentially, we flipped things. Going to the Magic Kingdom, we took it backwards, which was something that, at least in the last 15 years, I had never done, or 14 years, I'd never done. So I'm gonna say it's consistent with year past. It's consistent with 2025, where you are still going to run backwards into the Magic Kingdom. You're gonna go through, basically to the Polynesian and the Grand Floridian, in Main Street, USA, around to Adventureland, that whole way, and then out, going around through Tomorrowland, and then back towards the Contemporary, where historically you've gone into the Contemporary and worked your way out the other way. Here's the thing about the half marathon too. So the half marathon is the least amount of park time. You go, let's just kind of start. I probably should have started there, but I do want to call out the Magic Kingdom because it's so different from what we've done historically. When you start in the Epcot parking lot, and then you're running a series of toll roads, and a lot of those toll roads kind of loop down. They change elevation, so they're banked. And that is a little bit of a hassle for some runners because they may not be accustomed to that. So they're kind of running a little bit banked, and that could hurt your hips, especially at the start of a race. So you want to be careful about where you're positioning yourself as you're finding yourself going up or down those big clover leaves. because it could impact your running. Now, this may not impact you at all, but it's important for you to know if you've never run this before is to check where those clover leaves are happening because they're elevated, and so they're banked. The other thing too is these toll roads are pretty tight. And you'll feel that as you hit the first clover leaf where it's you're running in 2 or 3 lanes of traffic, and then it starts to taper and taper and taper and filter. And then before you know it, you're kind of almost elbowing people. And again, depending on what course or what corral you're in, some corrals, well, I should say this, the corrals, as they go down the alphabet, they get fuller and fuller and fuller and fuller and fuller. So if you're in a back corral, you might have lots and lots of people around you. So just be careful, be in check of where your surroundings are, and not just think about like the steps ahead of you. What I like to do is I try and keep maybe like a 20 or 30 yard stare ahead so that I know when I start to see large swaths of people and they're doing this and this, I know I have to get either in the middle or get to the right or get out of people's way so that I can continue my pace and I'm not fighting with somebody or I'm not changing my pace because I have to address whatever they're doing. So it's very important just to pay attention. And then when you get to World Drive, it's huge, right? It's like 6 lanes. You've got all the space in the world. Now, when we start getting towards the Magic Kingdom, we run on a jogging path. So again, there's more tapering that's gonna happen. Right after the Grand Floridian, you're gonna make a right onto this walk path over a bridge before you get to the Magic Kingdom. And that's another time where you wanna just be careful how you are setting yourself up, your positioning, so that you are not in someone's way or someone else isn't in your way. You just have to constantly be thinking. I no longer running, the trick is really to blank out, right? It's just to kind of get into your own head and set yourself on cruise control. Totally get it. However, there are some parts where if you are more aware and conscious of your surroundings, it's gonna be a better run for you. It's gonna be a better run for the runners around you. So just, again, keep cognizant of some of the areas. And I would say, as you start the race, of course. And then the Grand Floridian, as you get on the running path to Magic Kingdom, absolutely. As you go into the Magic Kingdom, absolutely. Now let's talk about the Magic Kingdom for a minute. I mentioned this last year, and I was just talking about this with a friend of mine. We used to get into the parks, and especially the parks when you finally see guests, when you see your friends and family for the first time, the natural inclination is, this is amazing, this is the coolest thing ever. And you naturally start to speed up, even if you don't feel it, right? The adrenaline's kick in, there's music, there's all this stuff happening, you're seeing people, like you're crying, they're crying, everyone's crying. Why are we crying? I don't know, but we are. And as you're going in there, you're gonna wanna start to move. And what sucks about that is that means you get to the good stuff faster and you get to the bad stuff and you're stuck on the bad stuff slower or longer. I'm more guilty than anybody because I just like to bust through and kind of show off a little bit for all the people that I'm run through, and they're like, wow, that guy's fast. Well, I think he used to be faster, but now he's old. So what I like to do now, and I've been consciously doing it maybe the last 3 years, is I bring it back. I slow it down. I drink it in. I say this part, especially the half marathon, which does not have a lot of park time at all, I wanna savor this. I wanna enjoy the moment. So as I get into the Magic Kingdom, I move over to the right, where slower runners can go, and I just look around. Maybe I swing to the left and I high five a few people, but what I really like to do is just enjoy it. Enjoy the moment. This is why people run Disney, right? For the most part, most people run Disney. I would argue probably everyone who run Disney is to run through the parks, run through these theme parks that you travel, you enjoy every single day. Now you get to run through it. Like, that's really, really fun. So why, right? Common sense dictates, like, you're excited, you want to go, but why would you want to waste or speed up the time in the place that you love the most? So that's another place where I talk about being conscious and cognizant of your areas. Take a step back. Doesn't mean you have to stop and walk. It just means maybe just bring it back a little bit. Maybe just enjoy the moment. Because the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna come out of Contemporary, you're gonna go down underneath Seven Seas Lagoon and Bay Lake, and then you have to go up that huge incline as you get towards the Ticket and Transportation Center. And that thing is a killer. It is a beast. There's no two ways about it. So save some energy, have fun in the part that you love the most, and then get ready to slog it out for miles 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then as we get back onto World Drive and we get back towards towards Epcot. Mile 10 or more, mile 9 and 10 and 11-ish is that cloverleaf again, and this time you're cloverleafing up, and it's a pretty big cloverleaf. What I do on that one is I get as far inland as possible, and it's fairly flat. So if you're at that white line that delineates between the road and the grass, I kind of chill out right there. And for the most part, it's not that uneven. And the only thing is that you're kind of going up, but you're not like this, where some people are on the outside and you can see like they're kind of cockeyed, and that's not good for anybody. But then there's what I call the series of unfortunate events. It's because then you go, as you get towards mile 12, excuse me, as you get to mile 12, you go up and down and up and down, and then you cut around to another giant incline that takes you into Epcot. So 10 through 12 is really the time where you're just all over the place. And so again, trying to save your energy in the Magic Kingdom may help you be better prepared for miles 10, 11, and 12. Then a really quick cut through Epcot, which is disappointing, and then up through Guardians of the Galaxy, and then out towards the parking lot again. Truth be told, the half marathon, the Walt Disney World Half Marathon, is probably my least favorite Disney race of all Disney races. I would say the Disneyland Half Marathon is not one of my favorite either. In fact, I don't even run it anymore. I love the 10K and the 5K. Those are like the best. However, the half marathons at Disney haven't been good since the old Wine and Dine night ones. If you ever ran the Wine and Dine at night, oh man, that was so much fun. I ran those every year. And then they changed it to the morning, and they changed the courses, and it just felt like just was not as good. So this race is one that I always just kind of grit my teeth and get through. Like, I don't like you, you don't like me. Let's just get through it. Although a couple years ago, I like almost PR'd it, and I don't know why. I think I just want to be done with it, to be honest. So it's not a terrible race. It's just one that's not very exciting. It's not very eventful. That's not to say it's not a lot of work. It's a ton of work. And if this is your first half marathon, congratulations again. Like, I don't want to discount what you're doing. It's just not one of my favorite races because I've experienced Run Disney races that are better, I guess you could say. But good luck with that. All right, so we've talked about the 5K. Great race. The 10K, even better race. The half marathon. And then the marathon, Sunday. Oh boy, here we go. The granddaddy of them all, 26.2 miles through all the theme parks. How do we get to all the theme parks? We run to all the theme parks. Maybe if you've never run a Run Disney race, or you've never run the marathon, and you kind of have in your head like theme park, theme park, theme park, theme park, but you kind of mentally forget we have to get to those theme parks, you are in for a surprise, my friend, because there's lots of running. There's quite a bit of running that we have to do to get to the theme parks. When we get to the theme parks, it's great. When we're not in the theme parks, it's not so great, but such is life in the vacation kingdom of the world. So much of the marathon is the same from 2025. However, as I was looking at the maps, I did notice there were a little bit of tweaks here and there. I'll get to those when I get to those. I do want to mention that in 2025, just like the half marathon, Run Disney completely changed the marathon course. They flipped it. So for all the years that I was running the marathon, I was running through the Ticket Transportation Center, past the Contemporary, into the Magic Kingdom, either through the Tomorrowland security gate or through the front of the park. Whereas in 2025, you went to the Polynesian, the Grand Floridian, ran on a walkway, and then came into the Magic Kingdom, ran down Main Street USA, and made a left to Adventureland. And it was very interesting for me because I was very aware in 2025. I was like, what's this? Well, how's this gonna be? I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it because I'm a creature of habit and I liked the way that it was laid out before. However, there was something about it, maybe the newness or what, but I really enjoyed going into the Magic Kingdom the way that I did and then running through Adventureland and around. So 2026 appears to be similar. Like, we're still running in through going the Poly, Grand Floridian, up that way, and then coming out and going towards the Contemporary that way. So I'm fine with it, to be honest. I'm okay. The marathon, overall, the marathon has always been kind of a bit of an enigma. There have been good parts and there have been bad parts. We used to run a whole 3 miles in the wide world of sports that was just like walkways and paths and running tracks and baseball fields, and it just was never, it was later, it was like mile 20, mile 21 of the marathon, and just nobody was feeling it, and it was kind of weird where it was. These courses have evolved a little bit, and I think they've evolved in a really good way. So you still start in the Epcot parking lot, you swing around back just like you to security gate for Epcot, just like you would with the 5K and the 10K. Here you then make a left under World Showcase Promenade. This part was a bit of a bummer because the last part of the marathon used to be World Showcase Promenade. So it was great to see all the runners. You knew you were almost done. It was very emotional. And now it's the beginning of the marathon, which started in 2025. And I'm not thrilled about it, but it was less dramatic to me than I thought it was going to be. So I guess that's good. So you go through World Showcase Promenade, you go up through Future World, then you get onto the toll roads like you did for the half marathon. And you're gonna do some of those clover leaves again. You're gonna get into the Magic Kingdom, just like you did for the half marathon. So we're gonna run through the Poly, Grand Floridian, into the Magic Kingdom. As I said about the half marathon, so if you're just jumping ahead, this is what I said for the half marathon in parks. I like to slow it down in the parks. I like to drink it in, so that way when we're on the arterial roads, I've got energy for it. Although 2025 is, if you find me, we can go to a bar and talk about what happened at 2025. It's fine though. Once you go in backwards through the Magic Kingdom, just like we did for the half marathon, you're gonna come out past the Contemporary into the Ticket Transportation Center, and then there's this Magic Kingdom parking lot that's huge. It's like 150 acres. And what they did in 2025 is they made it like up and down and up, almost like an out and back, so that they could squeeze in more mileage of the course that's closer to the finish line. They made the course overall more compact so that you're not running farther out of property, which I really appreciated. They did it again this year. However, it looks like it's a little bit tweaked because coming out of the Magic Kingdom parking lot, it looks like you're actually almost a mile more into the race. So coming out used to be at mile 11. Now coming out, you're almost mile 12. So I think that they've extended that parking lot course, which I'm not thrilled about, but I understand what they're trying to do. And I think they're trying to feel out like where they can tighten the course, so to speak. So there's something. So it's good to know that if you've run this race in times past, you're getting more mileage out of the way earlier. That makes sense. So that you're not having to run out or run distances in places that are farther out outside the property or outside parks. So that's interesting. If you've never run the marathon, you won't know about Barrel Island Road and the water treatment facility. There is no way to get around the water treatment facility. Barrel Island Road is this, again, arterial between Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom that is used primarily for cast members. There's Cast Central out there, which is a service that cast members can go buy. They can go get like their theme park tickets or swag, and then there's Cast Connection. I can't remember what it's called. Where there's Disney collects all the lost sunglasses, and after a certain time, they sell them to cast members if they want. They also sell other things like ride props and overstock and all that stuff. There's also the recycling facility out there, which is a little stinky. And there's also the water treatment facility, which, as you can imagine, water treatment facilities in Florida are extra swampy and stanky, and there's just no getting around it. And there's very little entertainment. Usually they take retired attraction vehicles, and you can go take your picture with Mr. Toad's car or a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea submarine or a Starjet's blaster. I think there was a Horizons thing once. So it's kind of interesting. I always hope they do something with the Great Movie Ride, but they don't, unfortunately. So once you get through that, you get into Animal Kingdom, and Animal Kingdom is a fairly good run. I like Animal Kingdom a lot because some of the zookeepers, or not the zookeepers, will bring out goats and donkeys. And there's a goat every year that wears this marathon blanket, and I always take a picture with the goat. So it's kind of fun with there and with that area. And then you run through, you run past Expedition Everest. Now, many runners will hop on Expedition Everest if it's open. When I get through, tends not to be open. I think a couple times it's been open. It's hit or miss when I get there early in the morning. However, I do know that it's open later on, and it's not discouraged for runners to hop on and ride the race. I couldn't imagine riding a roller coaster at mile 18 of a marathon. For those of you who do it, like, God bless you. Like, way to go. Way to have a pair, because I certainly don't. So good luck with that. And then what's weird is that Dinoland's going away. So we usually run through Dinoland and swing out back behind the backstage of Expedition Everest, which is really cool to look at, by the way. So I don't really know what Dinoland's gonna look like. I hope we're not just running past a bunch of walls, but my hunch is that we're gonna be running through some walls in Frontierland because of that absolute poor idea of getting rid of Tom Sawyer's Island and all that stuff. And then also Dinoland, I think, because I don't know where else they're gonna send us, and it looks like that's what we're still doing. So it'll be interesting to find out. So by this time, you're kind of humming along, you're in the zone, you're enjoying yourself. And I wanna make you aware of something called Blizzard Beach. You may know Blizzard Beach as a water park. It's a great water park in the summertime, lots of great rides. I was in entertainment there for a bunch of years, and I had a lot of fun working at that place. However, they use Blizzard Beach parking lot as a gigantic track, almost, as a big loop track to get about a mile, about a mile worth of the marathon. And I'm usually pretty out of it by this time. I'm pretty tired. And just to get in to see all the people in front of you and know that you've got to go around this loop is just, it's disheartening to me. I know it's disheartening to some. Some people don't mind it. Some people are like, big deal. Like, I'm just running around another parking lot. For me, I'm just like, I don't want to see people in front of me like who are miserable. I'm already miserable enough. But the highlight of that is, instead of taking a left out of Blizzard Beach, we used to do historically, starting in 2025 and keeping in 2026, is we move to the right. And we go to the right and we go towards Disney's Hollywood Studios, which is much, much quicker. We're only about 1.5 miles from Disney's Hollywood Studios instead of 3 miles, to which we used to be. I don't want to be a buzzkill, but I kind of am. Every time I run in it, it just hurts my soul, because you go in through Fantasmic Gate, you run past the Tower of Terror, and that's about it. I will say, though, that the cast members make up so much for you having such little park time. Everyone's there cheering, they're giving you chocolates. You do have to run up a huge incline to Fantasmic, but it's fairly easy. You're up and down, and then you're off Sunset Boulevard. One of my favorite parts. I loved when they opened it in 1994. I love that old feeling of World War II in the 1940s. And while it's kind of slowly being absorbed into whatever the park is becoming, parts of those areas still mean something to me. So it's nice to run through that element of the park. You go through the cast gate, or through the what's called an overflow gate, which means if the park's really busy, they're gonna open up an extra gate, let the guests go out through there. That's what you're gonna do. And then you're outside the park, and that's kind of like not your last park, but from there, you're gonna have just a little bit of park left in Epcot. But even before you get that, there's a walkway that takes you to Boardwalk and to Yacht and Beach. I used to not love this part because it's usually hot, and there used to not be a lot of guests. Over the last couple of years, it's started to fill up, and it's not just like, oh, there's guests hanging out there waiting for you. It's become a little bit of a party. Like, this is the place I think the most where I see, like, drink a beer, have a shot, like, have some food. It feels to me very much like, almost like, I run Chicago Marathon every year, and Chicago Marathon it's not just about people seeing their runner. It's like people bring like grills. People bring, it's an event. People picnic, and they have all this food for you, and they make it very much a party. And I feel like the Boardwalk run, that's where it's starting to become, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's really easy to get to, and it's fairly simple from like from like either parking there or taking the gondolas. I don't know, but this part is always like kind of fun and harebrained and zany. Maybe because people know it's almost the end of the race, and they need to do something to keep you going and keep you motivated. I don't know. But anyways, let me know. I'd love to know in the comments after you run the race if you've seen anything wild, or you did anything wild. You took a shot, you drank a beer, something like that, because you just have a couple miles left. You go into Epcot through the International Gateway, and then out through Imagination Gate. You're gonna cut across Future World into where Guardians of the Galaxy are. If you've never seen the choir, or you don't know what I'm talking about with the choir at the end of the race, I'm gonna leave that for you to experience. However, it's great. I wish they were earlier in Epcot, because they're very, very motivating, and you only have about 800 meters left. Well, I guess I just told you all you need to know about that, and then you're done. I really just hope you have fun. If you do just one race, that's great. One foot in front of the other is meeting a goal, right? You're doing something. If you're running a few races, congrats, it's a hustle. If you're running the dopey like I am, that's a grind. And I'd say the toughest thing for me is waking up early 4 days in a row in the middle of a theme park vacation. And that, for me, if I can get to the start line, I'm fine. It's waking up and getting to the start line is the tough part for me. But if you have any questions about that, or if you've never done this before, I want to remind you that I made a couple of videos last year about packing, how to prepare, how to set expectations, how to make sure you're treating this as a running vacation and not a vacation with some running in it. And those haven't changed that much, so I didn't feel like they needed a refresh. So if you want to check them out on my page, where you can like or subscribe. You'll probably see another video from me sometime within the year. You know what you will see? You'll probably see a Disneyland one, because I'm going to do Disneyland this year. Just the 5K with my son, and then my wife is doing the 10K. So I'll probably make another one, because I absolutely love that race. But that's just going to be a love letter to Disneyland versus like a course rundown. Anyways, I hope this was enjoyable. I appreciate you sticking around. I want you to just have an absolute fun time. If you see me, say hi, please. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I love talking about this stuff. I love learning about this stuff. Just because I've done it so many years doesn't mean I know everything. So I definitely would love your input and your thoughts. But in the meantime, just keep running. We've got about a month away, and I'll see you next time.